a night of powerful women, and tomorrow night on Bravo, a powerful night of television.
Oh, it is so powerful.
Why are you not horrified right now? That is not my truth.
Do you biblically feel like it is like,
Can't let go.
something's amiss here?
For God's sake, this is not who I am. Get out of here.
How bad does it get for Gretchers?
I don't know. I feel like that's debatable, and I think that's what makes the whole scenario or the whole episode interesting. Is I'm really fascinated to see what people will take away from it and see what they think, you know, because it's I think for all of us it was very gray, you know. I mean, it wasn't clear and convincing, but there were also some things that pointed a certain way as well. So it was a lot to decipher. So I'm interested to see what the audience does with it. Same.
Well, and you got on the receiving end of a Heather Dubrow we've never seen before shouting back at you.
Yeah,
what was
I did.
that like?
It was interesting because Heather stays so even keel all the time, and what happened in that final dinner was deep for Heather, and you see Heather, like that is like real raw emotional for Heather to come at me and scream at me. I think we were all like, wow, you know, Heather doesn't do that. And so I agree with what Emily's saying. The end was, I think we were all left feeling confused, and it'll be interesting to see what the audience takes away from it. And I don't think it's what everybody thinks it is.
Does reunion clear up that confusion? How would you describe that experience, and how are we feeling about Gretchen and Katie post-reunion?
You know, I've known Gretchen for 10 years. And so, you know, she's always been a friend. She's always been kind. She's always been a certain person that I've looked up to and admired. And she's always been like a champion of women. And so for me to try to shift and see her as someone different, that was hard for me to do. But I was also open to the idea that maybe someone has, you know, skeletons in their closet that they haven't made aware. I don't know. What was the question, Bryce? I don't know. Sorry.
And then how are we feeling about Katie? Because it's the first time a lot of you saw her in a long time was reunion.
That was hard.
I'll let Jen answer that.
Yeah, Katie was a good friend of mine, and I don't think what people understand is the loss of the friendship wasn't because Gretchen stepped into the friend group. There were so many things that led up to that between Katie and I. It was weird. I wondered what it would be like to see her, and it was hard. There were points of it that were hard, and then there were points where I felt like, okay, I made the right decision for me.
Okay, so how does that set the stage for season 20? Do we think this crew comes back? Is there going to be a shakeup? Are we going to bring back a bunch of vets because it's 20 years of OC? What do you feel?
I would love to know.
I would love to know if I have a job.
I would love to know.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, like we were talking about that on the way up here, I mean, at the end of the day, we have no idea what they're going to do. And can I just reiterate that I have no control over that? I would just like to put that out there again. You know, at the end of the day, it's in the hands of the Bravo gods, you know? It's not us. It's not what we think or feel. We just sit back and
But I will say, I feel like we have the cast has definitely formed real friendships, and I think like we all now kind of get each other, and it's genuine. And that part, I feel like for me being new with you guys, I finally feel like with the dynamics that I have with the women feel good for me.
Do you feel like it's a place where Katie and Gretchen would make sense in this group moving forward?
I mean, Katie for me is difficult because I'll just say this as succinctly as possible. I feel that in order to be good your first year or your second year, it's really not that difficult to stay on the show. You really just have to be authentic about your life and really take the time and effort to build relationships with the other women. I don't think Katie spends her time and effort trying to build relationships with the women on the cast. I think she spends all her time and effort building relationships with people outside of the show. Content creators, journalists, media people, whatever you want to call them, but that's where she spends her time and effort. And that's what was difficult for us, is that I don't think any of us besides Jen, I'm not going to speak for you, but I don't feel like we have any kind of relationship with her, nor do we feel like she ever really wanted a relationship with us. I feel like she just skipped that part and went straight to, I'm going to form all these relationships in the media. So,
And in all fairness, Katie and I had those conversations a lot because you have to understand, we talked all the time.
I saw that one flashback where you're like, how do you know all these people?
How do you know all these people? Why are you wasting so much time talking to these people? And shouldn't you be spending these efforts not with these people, but with these women? And I asked Katie countless times, do you want to be friends with these women? Do you want to be friends in this friend group? And Katie would always give me like a long pause, and I'd be like, your non-answer is an answer. So I don't know. That's a hard place to think about Katie and the group. It's in a spot for sure.
And then next week we get a double dose of you on our screens because Wife Swap is airing. What was the ultimate takeaway for you from that experience?
I will tell you, honestly, going into Wife Swap, I filmed Wife Swap immediately after Housewives. So I was tired. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, what did I get myself into? But it was such an amazing experience because it was so different than Housewives. I could take that housewife mentality and just throw it out the door. And it was all about just being me and a mom and, you know, just embracing this family and learning about them and learning about their dynamic and the husband and the kids. And like, I really enjoyed that. It was nice to not have to put like your armor on and like go to dinner and think, what's going to happen? You know, it was nice to actually film something that was just family friendly and really about the dynamics in a family.
Jen can do it next year and somebody can get a whole bunch of kids and Ryan and dogs.
I'm down. Sign me up. Oh yeah, I'm not married yet. That's right.
But it's the housewife edition, and that's a loose rule.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I'll let you guys get in and celebrate tonight. You survived.
Yeah, good to see you.
You too.
We're still here. We're standing.